Good afternoon, everybody. It's 4 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the February 18th meeting of the Design Review Board. We will start with introductions, starting with Cameron.
Cameron Boland, AIA representative.
Rick Blackford, Historic Zoning Commission.
Lisa Sear-Burnett, Business Development Representative.
Lisa Sorensen, Downtown Knoxville Alliance.
Perry Childress, East Tennessee Community Design Center.
Jared Worsham, Downtown Resident Representative.
Suzanne Taravella, Neighborhood Representative.
Dallas DeArmond, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Samuel Hawk, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Melinda Woolert, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
And Mike Reynolds, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Christina McGrath-Tillery, City Law Department.
Mark Reel, City of Knoxville, Plans Review and Inspections.
Thanks, everybody. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Your packet should include the January 21st minutes. After you've had a chance to review those, we'll entertain a motion to accept.
I'll motion to accept.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, minutes are accepted. Next up, we will start with the staff report.
We've had no level 1 approvals since the last meeting.
Great, thank you. We do have some housekeeping stuff to do. There are 2 certificates of appropriateness in the infill housing design review that have been requested to be postponed, and we can vote on those together. It's case number 12E25IH and 2A26IH, and I propose that we postpone those for 30 days. So we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to postpone for 30 days.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second to postpone those 2 cases. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. So we'll go back up to 612 South Gay Street, which is 2B26DT.
This is a revision of a projecting sign that the board recently approved for the Mechanics Bank and Trust Company building. The previously approved plan did not accurately depict the number, spacing, and size of the bulbs. The applicant now proposes a modified layout based on the manufacturing drawing. The size of the proposed LED bulbs appears to be similar to that of the Tennessee Theater sign. Overall, the size of the sign and the location of the sign remains unchanged since the last approval, and the sign will be proportional to the building where it will be installed. Staff recommends approval of Certificate 2B26DT subject to one condition, that the final plan be submitted to staff displaying the name of the theater for review and approval.
Thank you.
I need to recuse myself from this case, please.
Okay, thank you. As the applicant present, can you give us your name and address, please?
My name's Randy Ridge. I live at 4332 Duval Street in Chattanooga.
Great, thank you. Do you have anything to add to Samuel's comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. Then we'll open it up for discussion and a motion eventually. The only question I had was that a little bit of the text change, the place, I think it says at the Tennessee, and it doesn't say theater anymore. And I just want to make sure that's correct, that that's not going to change again. Okay.
Basically had to shrink the face down a little bit to get the adequate spacing for the bulbs, so lost a little bit of space there on the face for text.
Okay. I think it's a more interesting shape, and I like it
It'd be
better,
a
actually.
Very nice looking sign.
And all of the mounting, the bracket, all that stuff is the same as we talked about last time?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
I feel like you found the name that you should call it. It should just be called the Tennessee. Does anybody call the Tennessee Theater the Tennessee?
Yeah.
I don't. Am I the only
If
one?
you're
that
seeing a
does
show, do you say, yeah, the Tennessee?
that? Oh, I'm out of the loop. On that note, I would motion to accept per staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We already took care of the postponements, so we're going to move on to 3323 Savoy Street, which is case 2B26IH.
This application is for a two-story, single-family house on Savoy Street. Savoy Street lacks historic context and primarily features infill construction from the past 10 years. The lot is currently forested. The house measures 16 feet wide by 46 feet deep and is proposed to be set 20 feet from the front lot line. Features a front gable roof, lap siding, and a block foundation clad in stucco that scales to 2.8 feet tall at the facade. The final site plan should feature a walkway from the porch to the street. The driveway is accessed from Savoy Street, so it should be extended to be 20 feet behind the main massing of the house. The final site plan should include at least one tree in the front and rear yard, which should be existing trees on the lot, and should indicate a boundary where trees will be retained and not cleared towards the rear of the lot. The 16-foot wide facade is 8 feet narrower than the narrowest house on the block, and the block only features one-story houses. The lot is 40 foot wide, and the house is 20 foot wide with the one-story massing on the right elevation. The board should discuss if the scale is appropriate for the context. Final elevation drawings should depict the foundation height along grade to be approved by staff, with major changes returning to the board for approval. The front porch depth should be increased from 6 feet to 8 feet, but the porch otherwise aligns with the guidelines. One window should be added to the first story of the left elevation, and the transom windows on the right elevation could be revised to be single hung to be more traditional. The board should discuss the scale of the house. With that, staff is recommending approval of Certificate 2B26IH, subject to the following conditions. The final site plan to include a walkway from the porch to the street, the driveway be extended so that it's 20 feet behind the main massing of the house, and the final site plan to meet city engineering standards with minor revisions to be approved by staff. Final elevation drawings should depict the foundation height along grade to be approved by staff, with major changes returning to the board for approval. The front porch depth be increased to 8 feet. One window be added to the first story of the left elevation. The final site plan to include at least one tree in the front and rear yards and to indicate a tree clearing boundary, and retaining details as depicted, including eave overhangs, rake mold trim, lattice screening, headers, and the engaged gable.
Okay, thank you for that. Is the applicant present? Hello, can you hear us? Okay. I don't think it's useful to discuss the case if the applicant's not present, so it is him. Okay. Hi, Roger. Is your case the one on Savoy Street?
Yes.
Okay, you can hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, can you give us your name and address, please?
It is Maureen Padilla, 823 Jennifer Drive.
Okay, thank you. And we were just discussing the house on Savoy Street. Did you hear Melinda's comments, and do you have anything to add?
Yes, the GC that is helping me plan this out is about to connect to the Zoom. He wasn't connected, or he was having trouble connecting.
Okay. Well,
I was going to say, would we want to maybe move this item down on the agenda?
Hello, I'm here.
Oh, Hello, can you give us your name and address, please?
My name is Jesse Alarcon, 4124 Oakland Drive.
Great, thank you. Did you have a chance to hear Melinda's comments?
On the email or in person?
Well, just now when she read through them. Have you seen them on the email?
I don't believe I've seen them yet.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and discuss this project, and if you have any questions, you can chime in.
All right.
The first thing that I'd like to discuss is the topography of this site. There's a pretty clear drop from the front to the back, and all of the elevations show a perfectly flat site. That's been an issue before on other projects that have come before this board. And I personally feel like we need to see a representation of what the topography actually looks like and how that affects the design. Typically, we've let this be a staff review item, but it changes the porch and side condition so much that I feel like it's best practice for us to see it. I don't know what the rest of the board thinks about that.
I think based on what we've seen as far as just different cases where we've not gotten a clear picture of the site, and then we've had to review it again after the fact and be like, why'd you do that? I'm kind of more in line with what Suzanne's saying. And I think even specifically this street, if I'm not mistaken, we've looked at 2 separate cases in the last year or two that have dealt with a very similar sort of issue.
I'll just mention that, so on this property, since the slope is going down and away from the road, we won't quite have the same problem we've seen on other ones where the slope is coming down to the road. So the foundation at the road is not going to get higher. It's just going to get taller at the back of the house versus the front. So that problem, the bigger problem we've had with the giant foundations in the front really shouldn't be a problem here.
Yeah, that was sort of my question is the front elevation actually going to be lower with fewer steps to avoid coming as far out of the ground on the back corner as we are, which would be better for the 2-story scale on that street since you're going off down the hill anyway. It seems to be less of an issue with the other 1-story houses if they start closer to the ground and rise up as it goes down the hill.
Right, but then there's a moment where if it's too low, then it has some awkwardness to it as well. I had another comment to add. If you could go back to the site plan. Yeah. So the width, I guess, is a result of the driveway because they don't have an alley that they can actually use to access the site at the back. The site plan says alley. But I also know that we want the driveway to go past the structure by 20 feet, the front face, so that's going to take out the side access stairs if that drive gets brought back all that way. So that's also an edit that would have to be understood. So that side door on the left side elevation wouldn't exist, or would be, I don't think it, maybe it could be shifted, but that's also a change that would have to be a result of the site plan being updated.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to see the elevations as they actually are going to be built. We've just had too many problems in the past with imagining that and being surprised later. So I would feel more comfortable if we had a real representation of the site and the design implications of addressing the site conditions.
And we said we had the general contractor on the phone call on Zoom.
Yes, I'm here.
Do our comments make sense to you?
Yeah, I understand what you guys are saying for that, but the rear elevation, I think someone mentioned it before, it would just look the same, it'd just be taller, is really in the back. And the front would basically be almost to the plans, but the only difference would be like the rear elevation would be taller. Other than that, I mean, there's no porches that come off the back or anything like that that would affect the look of the back. It's just the foundation itself being taller.
What about the driveway comment I made?
The driveway coming, I bet going past the house?
Correct, but they'd take out this side access with the stair on the left side elevation.
Yeah, so the side access, I mean, what we could do is I could get, I already have the version of the plans where they're flipped. So the whole plan would be, flipped the opposite way. So the stairs would be on the right side. We would have to put I guess a walkway to come from that side to the front of the house. So it'd just be more permeable square footage, I guess we could say. And then how far does the driveway need to go past the house? Is it 20 feet or 25 feet?
It should be in the staff comments, isn't
It's
it, 20?
20 feet.
20?
20 feet.
20 feet, okay.
Yeah, it's comment 2 in the staff comments.
20 feet, okay. That's a little bit past half of the house, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, we could get a flipped plan. That way the protrusion on the other side is opposite to where the stairs are now. The main reason we put the driveway where it's at right now on that side is because of the elevation. If we put it on the downside, we didn't want water to, well, we didn't want when you pull into your driveway to be pulling in like down a hill. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it'd be downhill. I would prefer to put it much on the left side where the hill is higher, and also we don't have to bring as much fill material on the right side than if we did it on the right side.
I think that makes good sense as a site strategy and water management strategy. We just need the house to respond to that accurately. So making the driveway the required depth and then the entry to the house appropriate for where you want the driveway to be.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, I can flip the stairs or the plan so the stairs on the opposite side. We would just have to put a walkway from that side to the front of the house, and then we can leave the driveway where it's at, and do it like that, and just extend the driveway to the 20 foot past the front of the house.
I don't have any problem with the narrowness of it. I know it's a result of the 40-foot wide lot and then the driveway. Is this something that we could have as a staff approval if they updated that information rather than coming back to the board? What's the rest of the board think about that?
I think that sounds good. I do think that moving the door to the other side is kind of odd. It doesn't really work in terms of usability of the house. I guess the person would use the front door mostly. So in that case, it's almost like, why is the door even there? But I totally agree. I think this could be a staff approval based on the comments.
Can we pull the site plan back up for a minute? And I have a question. We do not have the floor plan, so I don't know what the distance is from the corner of the house at the driveway to that door. Do you know what that distance is offhand?
It looks like it's about 15 feet. The floor plan's on the back of one of the drawings in our
Okay.
packet.
Does it include the front porch? I mean, if we make the porch deeper to 8 feet, the distance from the front edge of the porch to that door may be closer to the 20 feet we want. And you can drop your stair off that side entry down the other side.
That's a good thought, and that gets us plenty of room in that 20 foot.
And then we'd have room to fit it in there.
Yeah, and you can keep your kitchen door next to the driveway
Right.
where it
And-
makes sense.
And pull your car up and take them groceries in.
Yeah.
We could make that work. That would just be easier,
Yeah.
I think I'd like that idea.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
like once we add the porch on, we've got our depth.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
The staff condition is currently written to where we would want the driveway to extend 20 feet past the main massing here, not with the porch. So if y'all are all right with, that measurement starting at the porch, then just modify that condition.
Well, I'd still want it to go back to the door. But it is a deviation from the way the requirement is written, but I think it won't be by a whole lot. What's that first dimension of the living room?
12 foot 4.5.
And then the door is another 3 or 4, so yeah, you're right about 15 feet from the corner. Well,
And the depth of the porch would be 8 based on the conditions.
Right, so if we come back to the door, I think visually and going off down the hill and all, it should be acceptable, and that would let the house work and the drainage flow. And that would require, agreement and approval by everybody here, since it's a deviation from the word of the requirement.
I guess the spirit of that is the visualizing the vehicle or not. So like, is the car exposed? Is it, I mean, if we use like an 18-foot parking stall, like it's 18 feet from the front of the porch to the, it's over 18 feet from the front of the porch to the stoop. But what's the distance from the front of the house to the stoop? You said, yeah, I said it was like 12 or 14.
15 looks like.
So the tail end of the car would likely be hanging out from the front of the house a little bit, which I think is, unfortunately, we're always having to design around vehicles, but that's what's going to be the result of it. If it's a substantial car length, then it's going to be sticking out a little bit. Maybe you won't see it past the guardrails. Maybe it's fine, but I think that's the thought with it being past 20 feet from the main massing, to tuck it in.
I think since there is not a lot of historic context for consistency with that in this particular case, that's not a huge deal. You can see so I'm trying to evaluate some of the other parking conditions on the street. It's got a variety.
Okay, well, it sounds like we're all good with it being a staff approval then.
I have a question for the applicant on the staff recommendation number 7. The staff has retained details as depicted. Are you planning to include that? Is that understood?
Retaining details as depicted, including eave overhangs, rake molds, lattice screening. So you're saying all the details on the elevation drawings to make sure that's exactly how we're going to do it?
Correct. Yes.
I gotcha. Yeah, I can double check all the plans to make sure, but yes, I do plan on following the plans. I will double check, when I do all these revisions and stuff, but I will double check that.
Okay. Thank you.
Perry, would you like to make a motion reflecting your thoughts, please?
I would make a motion that we approve based on staff recommendation with final review by staff, adjusting the 20-foot past the main massing of the house to be the driveway extend to the kitchen door beside the house.
From the front porch.
To the door, whatever distance that is, because it's going to be more than 20 past the porch, but less than 20 past the main massing. So it's sort of splitting the difference there. So to the kitchen door.
Is everybody on this side okay with that? Makes sense? Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thanks, everybody. Next up, we are going to look at 1130 Adcock Avenue, which is 2C26IH.
This application is for a one-story single-family house on Adcock Avenue. The block is characterized by minimal traditionals, shotguns, and infill construction. The unimproved Ambrose Street right-of-way abuts the lot to the south. The house measures 30 feet wide by 44 feet deep and is proposed to be set 26 feet from the front lot line. It features a front gable roof, lap siding, and a block foundation that scales to 2 foot tall at the facade. The final site plan should feature a walkway from the porch to the street. The driveway will need to be relocated to the north side of the house to meet city engineering standards, and it should be extended to be 20 feet behind the main massing of the house. The side setbacks will need to be modified to account for the relocated driveway. A 12-foot corner side setback is required from the southern lot line, which will not be possible due to the minimum driveway width once that's relocated. The board can approve alternative dimensional standards if they are necessary to realize the principles associated with the guidelines. In the opinion of staff, reducing the corner side setback to 7.5 feet, which is the currently proposed interior side setback, would align with guideline recommendations to maintain consistent side setbacks. The final site plan should indicate a tree in the front and rear yard, and existing trees at the rear of the lot should be retained as possible. Final elevation should indicate the accurate foundation height measurements, and the foundation should be parge-coated, clad in stucco, or clad in brick veneer. The front porch depth should be increased from 6 feet to 8 feet, but the porch otherwise aligns with the design guidelines. Staff recommends approval of Certificate 2C26IH, subject to the following conditions. The final site plan meets city engineering standards with minor revisions to be approved by staff, allowing for the corner side setback to be reduced to a minimum of 7.5 feet. The driveway be extended so that it is at least 20 feet behind the main massing of the house and be relocated to the north side of the house. Final elevation drawings to depict foundation height to be approved by staff. The porch depth be increased to 8 feet. The turn porch post, lattice screening, and rake mold trim be retained, and the foundation be parge coated, clad in stucco or clad in brick veneer.
Thanks, Melinda. Is the applicant present or on Zoom?
Yes, I'm the same applicant.
Oh, great. Can you give us your name and address one more time, please?
Yep, Jesse Ellercon, 4124 Oakland Drive.
Great, thank you. Do you have anything to add to Melinda's comments?
I did. For the site plan on this one, we ended up putting it on the right side because when my surveyor was looking at the dimensions for the side, since that is an unimproved road, it would be off of road standards, he said. So it would be like, I think it was 10 foot or something like that would be the actual setback. So we did put it to the north side, but then I felt like that was too close to the other house because there's a house that's right on the property line right there as well. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't to account. The trees, yeah, we can put the trees in there. That shouldn't be a problem. And I did have a question about the clad stucco. Typically on something like this, is it all right if we could do something like split face block? I've done that in the past, and I think it looks very nice on this type of house and in this type of neighborhood.
It's my understanding that that's not allowed in these guidelines.
Yes, and,
okay.
and the driveway, that's city engineering is going to require it to be on the north side of the house due to the proximity to the right-of-way. So that's something that has to happen for it to get through permitting.
Well, and one of the things often that the builder doesn't realize is that this committee has the ability to waive that setback requirement on the unimproved street right away there, which his surveyor was saying, well, we've got to stay off of this because it's a street right away. But that is one of the things that this committee can waive in our approval process, so we can address that part on behalf of engineering.
I did also want to add with those side setbacks, I think the minimum side setback is 5 foot, and if we move the house closer to that unimproved road, the setback off of that side would be, I think, like I said, I think it's 10 foot, but if we move the house 2 feet to the right, we would still not be at the 10-foot driveway width either.
We're allowing the staff recommendation is to allow the corner side setback to be reduced to 7.5 feet instead of the 12 that's required by the zoning code. So it would allow for the same spacing between these two, lot lines. It would just be flipped, and you just wouldn't have to be as far off there.
Okay.
Are there logistics issues with putting the driveway so close to the existing house to the left?
Are you asking me or the board?
Yes, you.
It would be a little bit tight to get a truck in there for concrete, but other than that, I don't see any other issues.
Okay.
With that, the site is relatively flat, so we don't have any issues there either. I did want to ask as well, there's a light pole directly in front of the house quite a bit into the lot. It's like 5 or 7 foot into the lot. I guess that wouldn't be a board thing. It would be more like a KUB thing about moving that pole. But I think it kind of splits up. It's right in the middle of the house. I don't really like it there. And I think it messes up the look of the house.
I agree, but this board can't help you with that.
I gotcha.
Okay, do we have any other discussion?
I just had one. Can you look at can you look at the plan and the site plan? So there's the site plan, and then do we have a plan in this or not? Just elevations.
There's a plan.
I don't have them in front of me, I'm
Sheet
sorry.
3.
The plan has a different stair than the elevation, like the entry. The stairs turn to the right, and the elevations show it to the front on both the site plan and the rendering and the elevation. So I'm just trying to understand what design we're reviewing.
Is the idea that the steps are coming straight off the front porch? In the floor plan, there's a landing there right now.
The idea is that the steps will turn into wherever the driveway is at. So the side the driveway would be on would be where the steps turn to.
And not just a sidewalk leading to it?
Yeah, there'd be a sidewalk to it as well. It'd be like the steps turn to it, and then there would also be a sidewalk. Because I don't believe if we move it to the left side, the stairs would go to the left, but it wouldn't go all the way. We would need to do the rest as a walkway.
Mm-hmm. And given your comment that there's not much grade change, I don't think there'd be that many steps like the plan's showing either. There's like 8 in that drawing right
No,
now.
there would be like 2 or 3 steps, I would say.
Okay.
So this is a common issue on houses like this, and I said it related to the last one, we really need to see what it's actually going to be like. The drawings need to be what's really going to be built. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to approve a plan.
It also makes it impossible during permit or during construction for a codes reviewer to come out with their certificate of appropriateness and relay or compare the approved drawings to the built form. So that's why we keep harping on that, is it's going to have to, whatever is finally approved, even when you bring revisions to the staff, it's got to depict what's going to be built, not what could be made up in the field.
Yeah. And we've run into this before where we know that it takes time and expense to change drawings, but even if it's a sketch to make it clear what we're actually going to see when it's built, that makes a big difference. So I would suggest moving to postpone on this one until we can get accurate drawings.
I did have a comment on that, just real quick.
Yep.
I did want to add that for something like this is a general plan off of online. So when we do submit this plan, it's very hard to change elevations and stuff like that. To make those changes, I would have to get with the online plans and that would take about a month to get those changes made, or hire a local architect, which the plans would cost between $7,000 and $10,000. Like I said, this probably doesn't have to do anything with you guys, but I just wanted to make that comment.
Yeah, we understand that challenge, and like I said, we try to work with applicants to make sure that we're being fair, but at the same time, it's our job to make sure that the guidelines are met, and we can't do that unless we know what's going to be built. So that's why I suggested using sketches, just to mark up the plans and elevations to show us what the changes that are necessary.
I did do some sketches on this one with the red lines and the words there. Is that all right for future use? Like, can I do that for different for like the stairs and stuff? Can I put that kind of comment on there?
I think it would be really helpful for you to do that. I think that's the first strategy. As long as it's clear that what's actually going to be built and we can all see it and understand it, that's the priority.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you could easily in the floor plan sketch which direction the stairs are actually going, how many there are. You can even just white it out, and then as far as the grade, if there was if grade ever needed to be depicted like staff requested in the elevations, you can just, I mean, as you would do as the general contractor anyway, just know what your starting point is at the front and then the fall to the back or vice versa, and you can just draw that line across the foundation. And there's your elevation for us to understand the grade change across it. So I don't think you would have to take it to an architect to pay for these updates.
It's surprising what you can do with whiteout and a straight edge.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And, in the resubmittal, we can, count on staff to make sure that is properly depicted, because it really does fall to the inspector in the field to hold the builders accountable to what has been approved. So they really need to see what.
Yeah. Are we postponing for mainly just the stairs, or is there any other stuff that it needs to be postponed for?
Well, I was going to ask the board, I mean, if the staff's already requesting final grade to be shown and all that sort of stuff, it sounds like we can just include that comment about the stair and it be approved to be then reviewed by staff for approval, unless somebody disagrees.
Do we as a board have a preference on the front stair for staff to give guidance on?
Well, I mean, doesn't there have to be a walkway out to the street? So I feel like the stairs have to face forward, don't they? And if it's only just a couple, then
I guess that would be a question as well. Do you want the walkway coming from the front of the house going to the street, or do you want it going towards the driveway? My plan was to put it towards the driveway, but
Does
Yeah.
this street doesn't have a sidewalk, does it?
there's
So it's just going to the street.
Yeah. But we do that a lot with our infill housing, hoping that a sidewalk will be developed one day. So
Well, it looks like the house next door has a sidewalk that runs to the street and off to the side. So that might be the deal, is to have your stair face the street and a sidewalk to it. And it forks, branches over to your car.
yep.
It's a little more sidewalk than the earlier design, but it kind of addresses both aspects and leaves some opportunity to wander out to the street.
Get the mail.
Yeah, that would be my preference. I mean, the one point of this board is protecting the public realm, and that's just one part of keeping the neighborhood character, is having sidewalks go straight out for the future sidewalks going down the street, if they were to ever come. So that would be my preference as well. So I don't know about the rest of the board.
Generally, I think that if we have consensus on the board that this can be a staff decision, then that's fine. Now we just need a motion.
Tony, you said it. You were doing pretty well. So why don't you keep going?
All right, I'll make a motion to approve per staff recommendation with the update to the front stairs to come back to staff for approval based on board guidance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thank you. Next up, we have 209 Chickamauga Avenue, which is 2D26IH.
Our last two cases are for two identical two-story duplexes at 205 and 209 Chickamauga Avenue, which we will discuss together. The board postponed plans for a single-family house at 205 Chickamauga Avenue in August 2025, and new plans have been submitted since. The block is characterized by minimal traditionals, modified Queen Anne cottages, and craftsman bungalows. The two lots were recently cleared and graded. The duplexes measure 50 feet deep by 34 foot wide with two adjacent units, and the building will be set 20 feet from the front lot line at 205 Chickamauga Avenue with no front setback identified on the site plan for 209 Chickamauga Avenue. The duplexes feature a side gable roof with lower front gable massings projecting from the primary roof line, an exterior of lap siding with board and batten accents, and a concrete block foundation that is 5 foot tall at the facade. The applicant intends to use the middle housing standards. Some revisions to meet middle housing standards could require additional review by the board. The front setbacks will need to be increased to between 24.4 and 34.4 feet to meet middle housing standards. The final site plan should include a walkway to the street, parking pad dimensions, and a tree in the front and rear yards. The block is characterized by one-story buildings, with the exception of a two-story townhouse at 251 Chickamauga Avenue. 3 one-story duplexes were approved on the block in December. Guidelines recommend that multifamily housing have a similar height to the context and that bays and breaks are incorporated to reduce visual scale. The visual scale of the two-story duplexes is increased by the 5 foot tall foundation height. The 50 foot deep building is deeper than most on the block, and the side elevations are large in scale. A recessed or projecting feature will need to be added to both side elevations to meet middle housing standards. The foundation height should be reduced if possible, and the foundation should be parge-coated, clad in stucco, or clad in brick veneer. The 4 foot 4 inch deep front porches are small in scale, but are similar to others that have been approved on duplexes in the overlay. The porch post should be at least 6 by 6. The operation of the windows should be clarified and should be single hung, double hung, or casement. The design does not incorporate contextual architectural features as recommended by the guidelines. Methods should be taken to differentiate the two identical adjacent buildings, which should include revisions to the facade roofline, among other interventions. The board should discuss the foundation height, visual scale, and methods to differentiate the two buildings. Staff recommends postponement of certificates 2D26IH and 8B25IH to allow the applicant to differentiate between the two identical duplexes and reduce the foundation height as possible.
Thank you, Melinda. Are you still there?
yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Just to keep it clean, can you give us your name and address one more time so each case has the same record?
Jesse Alarcon, 4124 Oakland Drive.
Okay, thank you. And do you have anything to add to Melinda's comments?
Yes. So the challenge with this lot is the slope of the rear. So we do have some water settling on the left property, right where the neighbor's property goes into that, like the rear. It kind of like the back slope and the side slope is holding water at that back corner. So what I'm trying to do with this grade plan is to show that we will be cutting into the grade a little bit. We haven't started grading yet, but start cutting into the grading to slope it a little bit harsher, but also to where it goes in between the two lots. And we have a channel that goes into a stormwater drain that's next to the road.
What is the nature of the channel? Is that like a swale? Is it?
Yeah, I guess we can do a swale or it would be pipe or something of that matter. I'm just trying to get a good idea of what we need to do with the board to see if that slope and elevation change is all right so we can figure out how we need to do the swale or whatever we need to do to take that storm water into the stormwater drain.
Is there a sitting engineering requirement for that?
I mean, they will have to meet the city engineering's requirements for how stormwater crosses their property and, you know, where it leaves their property. So it's not really the board's purview, really, in that sense. So we're mainly looking at the structure and the parking, those built elements outside of like stormwater swales or piping, that kind of thing. Obviously, grading and such can have an impact on the foundation heights or, you know, the finish of how the house sits on the property, but, you know, we're not going to get down to that detail of stormwater control. So.
I mean, in the discussion of reducing the front foundation, I mean, you can see the line there, like it's almost zeroed out at the back if we're still wanting a little bit of anything on the backside. This is a common problem we have, and I mean, unless they're digging in and putting in like a basement wall, it's about impossible. And if you drive up and down Chickamauga, there's a lot of that property because it's the foothills of Sharps Ridge. There's a lot of grade change on Chickamauga, and there's a lot of big stair sets on Chickamauga and these grand front porches on single-family homes. I don't think it's resolved well on this project, but I'm just saying that the stairs themselves, you see that on that street. I think a start, again, I agree that this needs to be postponed, as the staff said. The site plan needs to show the stairs correctly because they're not extending out the amount of stairs that are required to even make up that grade change, which is going to push your sidewalk to them forward that much more. And it's going to give us a better idea of the actual ramifications of a stair set that far out. One of our projects that got brought back where they had to make the stair or figure out how to mitigate the height of the stairs to the duplexes actually had the stairs like turned in facing each other, like almost like a central entry up to the sides that might give some architectural agency in covering that foundation at the front and making it a little bit more nuanced. But that also doesn't address the comment that the staff has brought up about differentiating the duplexes, which the easy answer is just to, mirror that project to the other side with the central stair core in the middle. So
I do have a concern about differentiating, and this has come up on other duplexes, where the massing of the whole thing appears to be one large single-family house. And on the one that came back, we went through many discussion ideas about how to unify that front porch and make it look cohesive and intentional. And so I feel like there needs to be a really clear direction for the applicant. Do we want this to look like two townhouses, or do we want this to look like one single structure?
Well, middle housing is to look like a single-family home.
Yeah.
I mean, it's house scale density. It's trying to look like a single-family home.
So I think there's some conflicting direction there that if we're supposed to differentiate, then why? If we're trying to make it look like a single-family house.
Well, the central stair would certainly help that.
Yeah.
And in terms of differentiating the two duplexes, one could have the twin gable like that, and the other could have a single gable that covers both of the windows on that projecting bay to kind of make it more like a single house and look a little different from the other one, add that and some change in color, you might be able to get some differentiation there.
Yeah, maybe they mean, I think it's between the two buildings, not the duplexes unit. Yeah, exactly, unified. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay,
That's a
thank you
good
for
question,
clarifying.
though.
That helps.
Of course, other site options would be extremely expensive retaining walls. So, don't know if that's a feasible option to get the foundation height down. I mean, the only thing would be to lower the whole site, which would be some pretty dramatic retention in the back.
That'd make his water issues worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a porch and a single stair helps the high elevation in the front
Yeah,
and makes it make sense where you don't have to modify the entire site.
I think as the one thing we'll often see, I forgot who is our general contractor. What's his name? What's your name,
Jesse.
sir? Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse. Yeah. If you drive up Chickamauga, take some photos of the houses with the really high front porches already. You're gonna find like an example of like ways you can solve it that would be in kind to what we're looking for this project.
Do want to thank you for the accurate representation of the grade on this one, though. We were just complaining about that on the others. It is shown well here, and that really helps the discussion.
Yeah, I got you. I did have a couple questions or comments for this as well.
Yeah.
For the front staircase, I guess my understanding is you want one singular stair, like both the porches to somehow be combined, and then one staircase coming down. Is that right?
I think the consensus is that would help the front look more in scale with the rest of the lot.
Or you enter in the middle and go up either way.
Yep.
So it may still be two stairs, but they converge at the bottom in the center of the building, and that hides a lot of that foundation.
Yep.
I got you. Okay.
Very-
Okay.
Sienna.
Yeah, I do plan. I think one of the comments on there on the staff recommendations was to somehow try to reduce the front as well.
Right.
I would have to talk to engineering and stormwater to see how we can slope that back elevation like enough to, because I do plan on trying to take that down. It's just not sure how much it's going to go down depending on when we start grading and all that. For the staircases as well, when we do the single staircase, do you want that to face towards the road or can we turn it to the driveway, or how does that need to go as well?
I think turning it toward the road helps the visual scale at the front. So if you turn it to the side, we're still just going to see the side wall of the stair, and that doesn't fix the problem. But if you face it forward, then we see less of the foundation, which is what we're after.
Okay. So for one staircase, we would need to kind of protrude the decks that are already there about 4 foot past the front of the house, and then turn it sideways, and then come the staircase forward. Is that right? Or
Yes.
so that
Yes,
would put
because you'll need some kind of aisle to connect the porches.
Okay, so if we do that, does that mean we need to set the house more back, which would make the front elevation higher?
I think that the previous plans y'all were thinking of that were similar didn't have the front porches recessed the way they are here.
Yeah.
So I can follow up with him with examples from that project if y'all would like.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, let Melinda get with you to work through some of that, because the ones that we're thinking of, the porches were already forward.
I got you, yeah. This plan has been approved, I think, in different areas, but I don't think it has this extreme of the front elevation, so I can understand that.
And just since we're talking through ideas, on some of the other ones we talked about the stairs being masonry, and on some of the other ones we've talked about planters being in the front, all of those things that are a little bit smaller scale so that it helps the front of the building look like it's scaled appropriately to the street. What we're trying to get away from is big, tall walls and big, tall faces of siding and lattice and things like that. We want it to be broken up into smaller pieces along the front.
Is the front elevation a main concern? We do have like 4 gables, I believe, on that front side. Do we need more differentiation on that? Like to break that up?
That comment in the staff report is just referring to the 2 identical duplexes, not wanting to have the same building built identical next to each other. So, again, we can work through that. And they mentioned unifying it maybe on one of them to take care of that.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to clarify, because I was confused about this with the comments to begin with, each individual structure we want to be different from each other. So lot to lot, they need to differentiate, but the unit on the same lot doesn't need to be differentiated. That needs to look like one single family house.
So you want it to look like two individual single-family houses?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
One last comment. I think this may be too drastic for this particular project, but I think going forward, one solution could be to mirror both units so that basically the staircases are at the party wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would give you a central porch that's shared that could have the same staircase. Just a thought. And you may want to pursue that on this case. It may be too difficult though, but for future projects, I think that would be a great solution.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea, and I was kind of going down that road myself. If you mirrored both of those units, like Tony described, then you could have a central gable in the middle, and it would look really intentionally symmetrical and like a single house.
You're saying for the front doors, where that gable isn't, the two gables are in the middle, put those on the outside and put the doors on the inside?
That's right, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can see that's a good option. Probably for the next project, but this one, is that all right if it stays how it currently is?
As long as it looks like a single family house.
I gotcha. Okay.
The hope is to give you enough direction of things that we're thinking and ways to make some changes and then bring it back to us at the next meeting, and hopefully we'll be able to get you going.
I got you.
So I would move that we postpone for 30 days upon resubmittal and see what our discussion reveals.
And then just to clarify, I'm sorry, Perry, is that for both 209 and 205 Chickamauga? Okay.
Yes, that'd be both houses.
Okay, so we just need to make sure that both cases are included in that motion.
I did have just one question for the board. So if we looked at we looked at this almost like individually, not them. We looked at them both as two separate places side by side. But one thing that stuck out to me that I don't know that we discussed was the driveways being right next to each other. I think the way that I'm understanding the plans, both driveways would be in the center between both structures. I don't know if there's an issue with that or not, but
I
I think given the stormwater issue that makes some sense because it keeps the water away from the building.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking visually, just trying to have them look separate, it being on the other side. But if it makes sense, that's fine. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm good.
I had another comment real quick.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned previously if we mirrored the houses or mirrored the units. So if we did that and we decided to do that for both properties, I know you guys said you wanted to differentiate the two properties themselves from each other. So if we did mirror it, how would you want us to differentiate like the two separate buildings? Would you want like a different like pitch of gable or what do we need to do for that?
My first thought is that one of them would have a gable in the front above where you have the board and batten accent, and the other one would be a single slope. It would look like a single slope dormer. I feel like that is an easy way to differentiate those two.
Yeah, I get you for this one, but I was saying how we said if we would mirror them, like if we did decide to mirror them, how would we differentiate the two mirrored structures, like with a different pitch of gable or different siding types or?
Yeah, siding pattern would be another easy strategy.
Well, it looks like one of them could have a gable that faces the street. The main gable could face the street, and the other goes crossways like it's shown here.
Yep.
And that would be just considerably different between the two.
Yeah, the main roof, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to second that motion.
It was 30 days, yeah. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries, and it's for both 2D26IH and 8B25IH. Next up, we have, thank you, everybody. We're going to move on to 100 West Depot Avenue, which is case 2A26DT.
Okay, I'm going to try to be as brief as possible with this. It's a big project with lots of details. So if anybody has questions as we go through, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we can obviously answer anything later on. So this is a 7-story mixed-use structure with 2 levels of structured parking. One of the levels of structured parking is essentially a basement level, and then the other one is more at grade with depot. It has 270 residential units, about 6,800 square feet of retail, which is at the Central Street and Depot Street corner. Indoor and outdoor residential amenities are on the 3rd level, which you'll see in a moment. Modification of an existing rail shed in the back of the structure, which I'll go over in just a second too. That was not in the staff report, but just wanted to make sure everyone understands what's going on with that project or with that existing rail shed. The board should discuss, as we kind of go through the project, whether the proposed screening at the parking structure along Depot Avenue is elevation is appropriate, whether the building is divided into modules that are similar in scale as traditional downtown buildings and with recognizable base, middle, and top. Proposed exterior materials relate in scale, durability, color, texture to the prominent building materials in the area, and whether the architectural features on the ground floor are distinct from those on the upper floors. I only bring those up because it's not, from a staff perspective, I can't say whether or not I think it's exactly meeting those standards. Those are guidelines. If anybody has concerns with what's being proposed in regard to those guidelines, just bring them up. Ultimately, staff recommendation is to approve as submitted with 3 conditions. So I'm not making any specific recommendations regarding those items, but if anybody has any concerns with them, please bring them up during the discussion. Just going to go over the quick overviews of the site. So you see here, obviously this is, you've seen the Depot Avenue and Central Street Avenue as part of the structure. It's on the north side of the railroad line. So if any, and the southern terminal depot is just to the west of the site, and this will sit on part of their property. Again, so this is the rear view. Like I said, I'm going to kind of go over these real quick. A lot of these slides are just so that we can refer back to them if we need to, and you have these in your packet as well. Not going to go into detail. It's just the elevations that are shown in the packet. So, site plan. Just make sure everyone's oriented correctly. North Central Street's on the right. Depot is on the top, on the north side of the site. What you're seeing in red on the right side along Central Street and at the corner with Depot is the retail spaces. What's shown next to that, more like orangey mustard color, are the 3 live-work units that are proposed with access to the Depot Street sidewalk. And then adjacent to that is the main residential entrance, lobby, and management spaces for the apartments. On the south side of the property, you see kind of a green areas where at grade on grade dog park is located. And the arrows are kind of on there. Obviously, those are the vehicular access points of the big 2 arrow, was being pointed out there. Then there's smaller arrows that just kind of show where the pedestrian access points, the primary, main pedestrian access points are. If anybody has a question, we can zoom in on those. You will see on the Depot Street elevation, there's several, I'd say secondary access points for pedestrians, because the zoning code does require 1 pedestrian access per 50 feet along that frontage. So when you look at particularly towards the garage side, why is there these little doors introduced? Well, we needed to meet the standard. So just wanted to point that out. Again, this is mainly here just for future reference, but you can see where on the 3rd level is where the outdoor amenity features and indoor amenity is for the residents. And just real quick, there's an existing rail, passenger rail shed that crosses over into this part of the property. They're going to remove part of that. This is in the Southern Terminal and Warehouse National Register Historic District. That shed is considered a contributing structure to that district. Board really doesn't have authority to deny removal of a portion of that, but just wanted to make sure everyone understands that that's part of this project, is to remove about, I kind of estimated around 200 feet. The applicant can kind of correct me if I'm mistaken there. But they do intend to finish the end of where they remove the shed to kind of repair the roof so it looks similar to what it is now with the hip on the end, so that the hip roof on the end will be retained. They're not just going to cut it off flat and make it look different. So going through the materials, so a lot of the gray material is going to be hardy siding or cement, yeah, hardy. Obviously you see the brick there. At the garage, we'll kind of go over this again. There's the metal screening, rod screening at the garage along with landscaping. The other material changes, so at the storefronts are aluminum. They do have a granite bulkhead below the storefront system, and then have a metal louver on top of the storefront system. So the only main difference on this elevation is that right above the lobby entrance, the main residential entrance, the red material is hardy material. So on the left side of that same image is brick. The main, but about 2/3 of that elevation is actually like a red or brick colored hardy material. Just want to point that out. Again, these elevations give the overview of each elevation, but it also point out the different materials on throughout the structure. One part I didn't mention, there is some metal architectural panel at the main entrance for the residences, so that's just a different material, differentiating the residential entrance from other entrances to the building. I'm not going to go over too much with the window details, but we do have them available if anybody wants to go through them. The big thing is there is some texture to the window, like layering of materials at the window, so it's not just a flat facade. Again, we can go over that if anybody wants to discuss. Parking garage again. So they do have the cable barrier screening at the opening at the garage. So this is if you're looking at the west depot elevation, it's off on the far right side. It's really kind of where that opening there is, yeah, there. And then there'll be landscaping to help, again, screen the parking garage more. There is the building does step back there, so it's not pulled out to the edge of the existing sidewalk edge or close to the front property line, quite like the West Depot and Central Street intersection part of the structure. So they are providing more space for sidewalk and landscaping where they do have the parking garage exposed. So the staff recommendation is to approve Certificate 2A26DT following to the 3 conditions, meeting all applicable standards of the zoning code on the final plan set, meeting all applicable requirements of the Department of Engineering and the city's Urban Forestry Division, and submitting the signage package for consideration of approval by the board under a separate application.
Great, thank you. Is the applicant present? Can you give us your name and address, please?
Christine Cobb with Quad Capital Partners. Our address is 115 Depot Street in Ann Arbor, Michigan.
Great, thank you. Do you have anything to add to Mike's comments?
Sure. We were before this body in December. We're excited to be back here tonight. Thank you for the staff presentation. Just wanted to add, we appreciated the feedback that we heard in December. We did incorporate a number of items that were raised during that session. We sort of introduced quad during that workshop as well as this project, some of the nuances of the site, the existing grading, the infill characteristics of this development that we're really excited about, being able to activate more than a 2-acre parking lot in just north of the tracks and really connect the old city neighborhood with the area north to the highway. I will just mention the activation on the ground floor is something that we have really wanted to drive home with this project. In reviewing a number of the other apartment buildings that exist in Knoxville today, we're so excited that we're bringing on more than 7,000 square feet of retail. That's more than any individual building and almost more than the collective amount of buildings that have been approved in the last decade. So that activation that we have on Central that wraps the corner is something that's very important to us. Additionally, we know that we chatted last time about the garage opening. We do anticipate an open air garage here for ventilation. That does mean that there's a portion on Depot that we tried to respond to the comments with last time with introducing the cable barrier, metal fences, as well as a deepened landscape setback, more than 3 feet, to provide both kind of high, medium, and more ground cover landscaping as recommended by our landscape architect. The result of that, the combination of activation with the live work units and with the lobby, is that more than 74% of the frontage is active. And again, when we look at our peers in this neck of the woods of Knoxville, we think that that is a tremendous amount of activation, and we're very excited about what we've been able to deliver with our team. So just once again, hitting the fact that we are delivering a transit-oriented, right next to the bus stop, very walkable amount of housing, including affordable units in this pocket of Old City, and we are so excited to be here. I'm joined this evening by Adam Jekyll from Nord Design. He is leading the architecture for the project, and we look forward to the conversation tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll open it up for board conversation and eventually a motion. I had a couple of questions, if nobody's going to jump in real fast. In the red zones that are part brick and part hardy, is the intention that those are the same color, that they read as one field?
Yes. As you can imagine, and we talked about this a little in December, a challenge with a project of this scale is really being mindful about where you're concentrating high-value materials. So providing the materiality of metal at the entry canopy to define the front door of the residential, but then really also provide some amount of module, as the design guidelines recommend that you break down the massing. So being able to highlight that with a mix of masonry and then a complementary color. We'll try to match. We're working on ordering samples now.
Great, thank you. The other question is just the detailing on the hardy, because that can go great or it can go real bad. And so I was curious about your intentions with, are you using like a reglet system or a metal channel on the hardy panels? And are those painted or are they?
Yeah, so
pre-finished?
it'll be a hardy factory finish, both the red and the gray, 2 gray colors that you're seeing. We imagine at joints where the materials change, so where you see the windows and there's a panels and then it goes to a vertical system, there might have to be a reglet there.
Mm-hmm.
The detail's pretty preliminary at this point, but we're trying to get really represent that depth. And one of the things the brick framing I think helps to do on the facade, and then having hardy next to it, is having a 3 to 3.5 inch reveal there to get some nice shadow lines on the structure.
Yep. Sorry, I didn't ask this before. Can you give us your name and address?
Oh, yes. Adam Jekyll, 325 North LaSalle, Chicago, Illinois.
Great, thank you. And then just to follow up on that, one of the issues that comes up a lot with hardy siding or fiber cement siding is the seams, like where the limits of the size of the panels come together, and just making sure that those are really intentionally put together and not an afterthought.
Yeah, so the large panels that you see at the windows, we're intending to have the actual joint lines align with what's happening with the mullions or buttons in the windows. We can achieve that by adding a 4x8 or 4x10 sheets of hardy and getting them cut to the correct size. The rest of the hardy that you mostly see is a V-groove vertical joint. So we're not using any hardy currently on the project. That's the typical lap siding that you'd see like on a single family home. We don't feel that that's an appropriate expression for this building or for downtown. I mean, I've seen that on multiple projects when I did the comp tour, but we feel it's a little bit of an elevated feel to get those vertical V-groove joints on the building rather than horizontal lap siding.
Thank you.
Is there any concern that the red hardy siding is going to fade? Red fades fairly easily, right?
I mean, it's an excellent question. I've not had any issues with hardy fading. I mean, it has a 30-year warranty, but I guess.
It's also part of the reason, part of the reason why we would want a factory finished product as opposed to painting in the field. There is some language in the material about touch-ups every 10 years, and, institutional project of this caliber, we'd be very mindful of wanting to keep up the appearance of the project.
We have had other, not under this board's purview, but across the river, that project I think is less than 10 years old, and it just got a brand new paint job because it frankly looked awful after just a few years. And so it's nice and fresh now, but it was just finished over the summer. So that's a valid concern that we've experienced in our city.
Yeah, I think I'll add to that. I mean, the amount of fiber cement's disappointing, I think, especially after the conversation last meeting about, I'd asked the question, like, if you weren't allowed to do fiber cement on this board, would you change it to potentially metal panel? But I guess I even realized today that all the red I was seeing wasn't brick. Some of it was colored fiber cement, or red fiber cement. When you did your comp walk, you obviously went to the project across the street, correct? The one that has the cafeteria at the bottom and everything?
Regis.
What's that? Regis, yeah, the DIA project. So that's all masonry, correct, on the upper levels? And I know I'm certain it's smaller in scale. Well, I don't know, it doesn't look much smaller.
It's a pretty similar scale, and I believe there was also stucco.
Yeah, stucco and brick. But I mean, anytime we bring up materials, we're not naive. We understand that everything's a cost implication, and that's why decisions are made what they are. But yeah, that's hitting the nail on the head. Like the longevity of that is going to weather really poorly. We've already started to see, like you said, in South Knoxville, projects that I've worked on Gay Street that are black and south facing that are fading now that do not look good. It's large multifamily in Knoxville is becoming fiber cement behemoths. That's the new material of Knoxville, and I think that Knoxville deserves more. I think that when the Regis building went up, I didn't care for the massing so much, but the fact that it has stood there now, I don't know how many years, but it's all masonry. It's aging fine, but I think that's a testament to the material choices of that. So my inclination is to postpone the project for the fact that I think the materials need to be given a heavier consideration, especially now that we're seeing a red painted. I mean, it's north facing, so it may be less subject to sun degradation, but that's a major concern, all of the fiber cement.
I appreciate that feedback. Respectfully would like to look at some of the other elevations, in particular, the high impact elevations that you have up and down Central as the majority of traffic moves from Old City. And when we look at where we can cost effectively apply materials for the biggest impact, one of the number one focuses that we have is the pedestrian experience. We're providing a granite water table around the entire retail. We're providing ample landscaping, brick, metal. It should feel tremendous at the pedestrian scale when you're walking around. As you turn the corner, we continue the masonry through the majority of frontage on Depot.
Do you have any views of someone at the pedestrian scale, like at 6 feet, walking next to these materials?
Yeah, we can, do you want to forward? Is it possible to flip an email to you and you can pull it up? We do. So
Great.
let us bring those up here. This is an important decision for us when we think about how the property is experienced. Hardy and fiber cement panel are a product that's applied to multifamily and condos and commercial properties and single-family residential throughout the entire country. It's a very typical material. Part of that is because of its durability, because of its warranty, because of the maintenance that a responsible owner would provide. We'll get those renderings pulled up.
I think we talked about this some last time, and it's not really the purview of our board to know this, but I'm curious about how long this building will be held by your folks and what the maintenance is like over time.
Yeah, we have a full operating pro forma that reflects this type of institutional grade investment. The operating numbers are large. It costs a lot of money to sustain not just the resident program, but the overall maintenance to the building. And then I would come back to, this is an institutional caliber investment property. This is something we're investing dollars that are part of our fund capitalization, and it's not with the goal of being a landlord that creates a building and walks away. This is definitely a sizable sustained operating budget attached to it. We do expect to own the building through its construction and stabilization, and ideally for the long term.
We talk about the garage screening, the solution you guys came up with on that. You said it's just cable railing right now?
We deepened, so the western half, I guess like plan left half of the building is set back from the sidewalk or from the property line by more than 12 feet. That was to accomplish preservation of the willow oaks that are there from the World's Fair, as well as to provide relief from the sidewalk and again, enhance the pedestrian experience where we weren't able to do that because of the open air characteristic of the garage. We deepened the planters there to, I believe, 3 foot 4 inches so that it was able to accommodate a tiered structure of landscape to screen the garage, in addition to adding the metal cable barriers, yes.
Is the do you have an idea of what your landscape architect has suggested for the plantings?
Yes, it's detailed in the submittal. Arborvitae, hydrangeas, and I'm sorry, the print is really small.
I saw a clip of it. It was on the screen real quick. Yeah.
It's, I don't know if you have the full submittal, but we do have that
Yeah,
detail
I
in the
don't have
package.
it. I looked at it pretty closely. I just wanted to know if like and that only is as good as so it needs to be evergreens, right? It needs to be year-long plantings, correct? So is that what's being proposed? The hydrangeas, I don't think will do much, but
Not a landscape architect, but yes, the arborvitae should provide the evergreen quality and some of the ground cover as well.
okay. Because if it was just the cable screening, then that would be lacking. If the planting is in perpetuity and is actually considered a facade and doesn't wane in the cold season, then that could be considered a facade to discuss. But we've had, discussions or proposals before that have vines that someone, showed trying to grow up the facade to screen the garage. And of course, that's infeasible. So I guess what I want to know is the proposal of the facade to screen the garage is the planting, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
I think I heard you say this in your comments, but the hope is to retain the trees along Depot.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
I think overall, I mean, I appreciate. I know that there's some conversation around the materiality of the building, and I think it's our board's job to make sure that what goes in is adding value and protecting the public realm and all those things. But I just want to say I appreciate the project. I think you've put a lot of, in my opinion, you've put a lot of thought and detail in how it engages with the public, and I think specifically this part of town has a really unique history. And I think to bring that retail space and some opportunity to grow downtown North, I think we need a project like this that is going to help kind of facilitate that. So I appreciate the attention to detail with the thought around retail and how it kind of activates Central.
Thank you. We really appreciate that. And there was a couple other comments from December regarding access from the south end of the property, where we will have a fobbed entry so that residents who are coming from the south will be able to enter via the lower garage directly to the lobby with credentials. And then, so thank you for that. And then the other comment was about, a question on the goal, and really one of the advantages of this site with its geometry is that we can have relatively flat plain garages that aren't connected, but they're really accessed from two different grades. Part of that is that with the goal of one day there being less of a requirement for parking, more of a demand for retail as this neck of the woods matures, that we would be able to repurpose a portion of those stalls where we currently show the open air garage. And we did double check those grades. Somebody had requested that we take a look to make sure that those would be reconciled, and we're really close. It's within a foot. And now that we're putting doors every 50 feet, we're going to have to tie in access to there anyway. So it's a nice check and balance for the future use.
On this, perfect timing. For I noticed there's some mural work that you all have included kind of in the renderings as well. Are there any kind of thoughts or plans around what that would maybe eventually look like?
Yes. It's one of the most charming things about Knoxville when you walk around and see the amount of public art and the support for that the community reflects. We'd want to work closely with the organizations that are doing that here to identify a great artist and work closely together on what the vision will be. This is all very conceptual, and the reason why we didn't submit these renderings yet is they're still in process, but this certainly gives you an idea to your question, Mr. Bolin, about what that pedestrian experience is. This kind of wraps, if you want to go, this gives you a sense of the live-work units as you approach the leasing, but you can really get a sense for what that experience, how transformative this project is going to be for the current experience on Depot, where we're reconciling today essentially a 12-foot berm at its peak as you move from the grades of the existing parking lot to the sidewalk grades. There was a comment on one of the community threads about this being a great feeder mechanism for the food hall that's across the street, bringing bodies to the area in order to help sustain the retail that is existing there and create demand for additional retail. So that was great to hear as well.
That's a great point, because I think that is what's lacking on that end of the city is people don't want to walk that far for the cafeteria. So if you have 270 units feeding that, then that's
I would love for it to bring a grocery store to the area.
Well, I'd like to echo, I mean, the reason I'm critical of projects like this is because I know they're super nuanced, and you guys have worked really hard to deal with a lot of constraints. And when I see thought given also to the architectural, like fenestration and the massing, it makes me say, okay, what would be that much better version of the project? And that's the reason why the materials are sticking out to me as to what else, how could it be that much better? I will say the reason I get a kind of sick feeling in my stomach when I see this is now going to be the third multifamily project that I've seen that has this very similar scheme with the courtyard, I guess, elevated courtyard in the back. And of course, the one across the street at the Regus building has it front and center on the street, the pool deck, that sort of thing. So when I think about that, I think it's almost like, all right, we got to make this pro forma work. There's this many units we have to get. And it's like these numbers are being put into this kind of algorithm and it just spits out this building. And that's when then the materials being not as exemplary as they could be in all aspects of the project make me feel like some things on it are being an afterthought. So there's so much that's not. Again, let me preface that. I know there's a lot that's been done to this that is not an afterthought, but there's a little bit of carbon copying, it feels like, that's happening. And I want, your all's project is extremely prominent, extremely a focal point. It's got like you said, the great stat of 74% of ground level activation. I want one of these projects to be like the example that we can say, do it like their project, as the example when we say what we're trying to get to. So I understand there has to be a material B, there has to be a material C. I get that. I'm not saying this is a fully brick-clad building, but there's some swatches over the parking garage specifically that's just a big black mass. Like in that, actually go back to that long elevation, please. 2 clicks back, one more. Like that seam right there on the justified right side is, and I know, again, it's a proportional thing. It's like that when you squint your eyes and see the contrast in the two, it makes sense. But when the material is actually fiber cement, it's just lesser than there.
I would add a nuance is that the 2D perspective presented in that elevation is never going to be what you see in reality.
Right.
You don't get a sense of the 12-foot setback, the trees and shade that produces, the different types of balconies and fenestration. It's a challenge for those type of elevations is that they present such a hard dimension to look at.
And I'm an architect, so I deal with that every day. You draw
Clearly.
a gable in elevation, it's horrible when you see a gable in pure elevation. So I totally agree. So let's go back to like, what is the fiber cement? So like, this is a great view of it. Those are 8-foot tall panels with an open joint at the top, correct? I'm asking the architect, Mr. Adam Jekyll.
So the large panels you see, those are going to be large, like 4x8, 4x10 sheets that are cut to size. So the joints are aligning, as you can see with the mullions on the windows. And then between that, where the window strips don't exist, is that V groove. So every 6 inches, there's a groove or a shiplap type.
So it's only a V
reveal.
groove, it's not an actual individual panel.
It's an individual panel. The panel itself is 7 1/4 or something like that.
Okay.
The actual exposure, so they have to be nailed. Every 6 inches, or 7 inches, there's a panel being attached.
Okay, got it. And I read somewhere on the application that it's an exposed fastener. Is that correct? Or is it a concealed fastener system?
For the large panels, it's exposed where the windows exist.
Okay.
And the vertical line of the windows, below and above the windows, to the side of the windows where you see the vertical joints every 6 inches. No, that's a concealed system. You wouldn't see the fasteners.
What's the decision on the exposed versus concealed? Why the exposed on the larger swaths, the larger panels?
It's typically, the exposed is just, it's different articulation. I mean, I don't know if there's really profound thought necessarily behind exposed versus concealed. The concealed, we're just trying to make it read as sort of a vertical piece that goes all the way up the building, whereas where the windows are, there's a lot of fenestration there. There's a lot going on in that strip. So the concealed fastener seems like something that would be appropriate or okay within that strip when we collectively talked about it in my office, and presented it to Christine.
I think for me, and again, I just want to say that I agree with what Jared said and with what's your name again? Cameron. Sorry, it's getting late. Said, I think that the proportions, the density, the scale, the program, all of that is lovely, and it's going to be a huge asset for our city, and it's in a great spot. All of that is working in your favor and in the best interest of our city. I think for me, the sticking point is just the finish on fiber cement doesn't look good over time. And you can paint it every 5 years or 10 years and have a 30-year warranty. It doesn't look good over time. And we're stewards of the downtown area, and we have a lot of fiber cement in the downtown area now. And, you know, a classic building in downtown Knoxville has materials that patina, and they look more beautiful over time and more interesting, and that's not what fiber cement does. And you know, I don't even think that we have a lot of agency to forbid it. We don't, but it wouldn't be my choice, and I don't think it's in the best interest of your project because it's so lovely in so many other ways.
Well, I mean, we do have agency to make a judgment call on what if we think it's appropriate. So if we think there needs to be a different material thought. I mean, like I said originally, my gut was to postpone it to have the applicant more time to reconsider the material selection. I don't think that it's going to not have fiber cement. I get that. It's just there's so much of it that's difficult.
I guess I would come back to the question of where that fiber cement is located and how that interacts with the day-to-day experience of the building. And again, feasibility is something that is a gating issue for everybody. I know that's not something that a municipality wants to, it's typically, in my experience, sympathetic to, but it's a reality of developing a project of this size and cost, where we want to be impactful, where we want to really concentrate high-value materials is, again, at the pedestrian level.
But you can see this building from all over town, and it does face the railroad where nothing really realistically is going to be built over time. So there is a vantage point where you see it from afar.
Absolutely. And if that perspective really highlights, again, trying to be thoughtful in how we're applying brick at different places so that we can break down into different modules of building.
Yeah, because I feel like if you even took areas of the actual architectural scheme, again, proportionally with the way the materials are broken up is interesting and I think nice, but it's like if it was an indica or like a gray or dark brick that contrasted the red brick, it just starts to be a more robust project than the fiber cement.
Would you mind going to the perspective from the south? Sorry, the sort of bird's eye perspective view. Oh, perfect. I don't know if it's possible to zoom in at all. And Mr. Bolin, I hear what you're saying on, I'm glad that you appreciate the different setbacks and scale and masses. We certainly are trying to do that. We've also, in response to December's conversation, wrapped the mural around the garage plinth on the back and complemented with additional landscaping to try to bridge and enhance all perspectives of the building, all sides of the building.
One question I have is where the red fiber cement is occurring, is that just on Depot Avenue or is that also on the backside
It's
facing?
just above that. The red fiber cement is isolated along just
above the entrance,
exactly.
the residential
the
entrance.
lobby.
Okay.
Mhm. That's exactly right.
I think, I think it's an elegant project. I think we're kind of dialing in on very nuanced things, like Cameron said. I appreciate the attention that you guys, where you thought about where the material is going and putting high value material along Central and especially on the corner as pedestrians see that the most. A couple points that I wanted to bring up with the brick parapet. We like to see base, middle, top typically, and in this case, it almost seems like the top of the building has just been cut off, and there's not really a lot of detail at the brick that I feel like it's lacking. Can you speak to the thought on the brick, the top of the brick, and if any consideration has been given to any sort of additional detailing up there.
So presently, the brick parapet is going to be about, we have it 2 feet taller than where the fiber cement is. So we're trying to differentiate the height in that way to kind of create a frame. There's going to be coping over the top, but presently there's no special coursing, which I think you're kind of hinting at. Like, is there any special brick coursing near the top of the parapet? And that's presently not in the plans.
Yeah, that is what I'm referring to. And I don't even necessarily think it needs to be like a historic detailing, but just something different to signify top. That's the top of the building. Because, over time, theoretically, someone could come in 100 years from now and add to the building or you see that all the time in places like Boston and New York where they'll keep the historic and build up beyond. So that's one thing that I would like to see more of. Another question I have was on the prefabricated balconies, what is the underside of those? And you may have touched on this last meeting.
Do you want to address that?
Yeah, so we know that the board doesn't like how Church and Henley turned out, so it's not going to be anything like Church and Henley. These are prefabricated balconies. We're currently considering a company called Endurable. There might be others that we look at as well as we talk to the general contractor. But the fabrication of those is basically metal. So the underside of it, it's not a panel, but you look up and it's a painted metal surface. It's the same color as the balcony. So the balconies are a dark gray color. The underside will also be that color. There won't be any like exposed wood joists like you would see at Church and Henley.
It's like a thick gauge aluminum or something like that. Do you know what the metal
Gauge
is?
of the metal?
Or is
Yeah.
it aluminum or steel?
I think they're made out of steel, but the actual horizontal surface where you walk, I think, is aluminum. But it's painted all a unifying color.
That's
and
great.
it's factory
Yeah.
finished, so it's not painted in the field.
Okay. Great. Yeah, we just want to avoid what happened at Church and Henley going forward. My last question is the rooftop equipment. I see that you have a zone on the rooftop for equipment, but it's not really showing what that equipment looks like or any sort of screening. I think we touched on this last meeting, but was any thought given to the screening?
We're going to be at least 10 feet away from the parapet for OSHA so that we don't have to have a parapet that's too tall. Sometimes when you have a parapet that's too tall, it looks like a very awkward height proportionally to the building. So none of the parapets are 3'6" to prevent fall protection. Therefore, all the HVAC equipment has to be at least 10 feet away from the edge. I think we're going to try to keep it to 10.5 feet. We're currently looking at split systems in the units, so it's small residential size condensers, right? A 3 foot by 3 foot condenser that should not be visible from the street since it's set back 10, 11 feet from the parapet.
You have 270 units?
Correct.
Are you going to have 270 condensers?
Yeah. Correct.
There was a more detailed roof plan submitted with the initial material that showed the amount of setback. We haven't laid out the condenser units yet, but we're confident.
You said they're only 3 feet tall. Is that the...
Standard 3 by 3 by 3,
Yes,
roughly,
okay.
condenser.
Okay.
It might be a little bit shorter than that, maybe 2.5 feet tall.
Sure. Yeah, I understand it won't be visible from the street, but I think this is such a prominent building. You'll see it from the interstate looping around. You'll see it from different parts of the city from further away. So I just want to be mindful of that. If that does change, that those would get reconsidered. The screening.
That shouldn't change. I mean, the condensers are going to be roughly that size, and they're definitely going to be that far away from the parapet since the parapets aren't tall enough for fall protection. We don't want to have a railing inboard of the parapet since I'm sure the board would not like that.
I have a question for my fellow board members, and this is me showing my ignorance as not being an architect and more as a downtown resident. But on the fiber cement piece, is there an example existing downtown where fiber cement appears with this sort of similar application where it's vertical? Because to me, the vertical piece is different than others.
This is more elegantly conceived than the other ones that I know of downtown. I think the V groove looks really nice, and the striations look really nice. The scale is great, like I said before. So I can't think of an example.
Well, the Tombras building there at the corner of Church and Gay,
It doesn't have a vertical.
That's
though.
horizontal.
is it horizontal as well? It's a different material too, is it not?
It's fiber cement, but it's a Oco skin.
A different make.
But that's an example of the south face is not done well over the last few years.
Looking at how it had faded some.
If
was
you look
part
at
of-
the west facade versus the south, it's definitely changed.
And that's sort of similar to this project, that this north and east sides are probably going to fare pretty well. So it's not as worried about the red because it's on the north. In that red is one of the worst fading colors you could possibly do on anything. But then the south end, the south side and the west end are really going to get some harsh exposure on that. And I don't know if there's any, considering materials, that you might revisit some of those exposures just based on the fade of it. But I understand too, factory color, because the color is more than skin deep on these things. And warranty does give you all the insurance you can get.
Well, that also relies on a perfect installation, and it's very difficult to perfectly install fiber cement siding with a factory finish and not have to touch it up, and it won't look like polka dots. So it's just a challenge of the material. It's an affordable material. We see it everywhere for a reason, because it's affordable. It's not as durable and beautiful as other materials. And that's just a compromise that we're either going to allow or we're going to push it back against. And we do have, as you've heard, significant concerns. So
I had a question for Adam. Is the fiber cement going to be installed on a rain screen? Like, is it going to have a ventilated cavity behind it?
Presently, we're discussing a lot of the fiber cement being direct applied.
So no air cavity,
Yeah.
okay. Which generally allows siding to fare better in weather and last longer. Okay.
Was there any consideration for noise, as with the train being so close and then the mill and mine being across the street?
Yes, you brought up mill and mine on the last project as well. So we originally were contemplating upgraded windows on the south facade, and we're looking at that same window spec throughout. We had toured Yardley Flats previously during a pregame when they had music going. It seemed that those windows had a really nice sound attenuation to them, but it's in our basis of design right now that we would have upgraded windows. So being mindful of that. We're also eager to participate in a no horn zone movement to help with the trains. But
Sweet.
yes, livability is critical.
I just have one question about parking, and I know this doesn't really apply, but there's 270 units and 283 parking spaces. And I know you have a lot of like 2 and 3 bedrooms. So where are the rest of the people, where are you planning on having them park?
We generally try to, part of the benefit of having the building professionally managed is that as we're moving through the lease up, the majority of units are studios and 1 bedrooms, that we can closely monitor how the parking absorption is tracking with the overall unit absorption. We do additionally have, I believe, 16 of those parking stalls are tandem. So ability to accommodate some that have more than 1 car. It's a little bit of a balance. We normally like to prioritize and ration to an extent that larger units that have a higher cost and a higher bedroom count to them are typically, we hold off an amount of units, parking units for those specific units. It's a good question.
we have had a good, robust discussion. If anybody would like to make a motion, that would be appreciated, unless there are other comments or questions.
Like I said, my only grievance is the materials, but that comes up in the past 5 years I've been on the board has been about materiality, and that's a systemic issue with what we are mandated by. But again, every project is a chance to put a stake in the ground, and I still feel compelled to. I would want to postpone it to ask for a reconsideration be given to the large swaths of fiber cement. Not saying there can't be fiber cement, but can there be more masonry in the project than what's currently shown? And that's not a motion. That's me saying my sentiment. I'm just letting the rest of the board know that.
Yeah, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel like any other more durable material, masonry, metal panel, whatever other possible material that's not fiber cement and not relying on a paint finish. Even a factory finish is a paint finish, and so that's where the concern is.
Well, hearing nobody else, I'd still would like to motion to postpone to give the applicant more time to reconsider some of the materials to be a more durable finish, including metal panel or brick.
May we certainly don't want to appear that we didn't hear that comment in December when we met. We've continued to price the project. We've continued to dial in the design and refine the details associated with the materiality throughout the exterior, the interior, the detailing of, again, what residents and the public will experience. It's, I think, a challenge to provide a building that meets all the requirements of zoning, meets all the requirements of the guidelines in terms of materiality. Is there anything more specific you can offer? When I think about this building as a series of modules as you move around it, and the fact that we are satisfying a clean palette, but a mix of materiality at each of those areas, I'm struggling a little to go back to the drawing board again and figure out if adding an additional brick course here and here gets us there. You know, your comment.
I have a thought on that. I don't know.
Where's that coming?
Right here.
Sorry.
That's okay. And I don't know, because I also am not an architect. Seems to me the issue is the red fiberglass. So why not just make that red fiberglass brick? It's a small section. I don't know. Is it all the fiberglass that's going to be an issue?
Fiber cement. I'm speaking for myself, not for the board, but I think that the fiber cement generally isn't a durable material, and the finish is certainly not durable. And so red is a risk, but gray is also a risk, and it gets chalky over time. And so I think, you know, the next 15 to 20 years of this building is not the issue. This is a huge building on a prominent site, and we're thinking about the best interest of the city long term, and we're thinking about 50 years, 100 years. And when your people are no longer involved or might not be involved anymore, or economic times change, we want the building to still have the beauty and integrity that it has on the first half of its life. And so I feel like it's not about adding a little bit more here and a little bit more there. It's ensuring that the whole building has integrity for its whole life, and that the patina makes it more interesting and more beautiful, and not like it's degrading as a building over time.
And we certainly, thank you for expanding on the point. It is never our intention to develop something that will wear poorly. The patina and richness of material is something that's really important to us as well. This is a large building. It's a large site. It's a substantial investment. We're really excited to be a part of it. But I'm, again, trying to grasp for how to satisfy that when the fiber cement is an approved material that is present throughout the entire country, including the projects in here, and how to reconcile that with the fact that as an institutional owner and investor, we can't command the rents that we are underwriting if we have a project that looks ragged. It's within our own interest to make sure that the project in perpetuity is beautiful. Anybody who owns that building is going to feel the same way.
May I ask a question of the board? it sounds like to me, as another non-architect, that we're talking about a comparable material of a low price, or the lower price. But I haven't heard anyone suggest that. I know brick sounds expensive to me, and I think what she's saying is if we force brick, that this project may not happen, just cost-wise. So just, are there any other creative solutions that would meet that pricing standard?
No, it'd be brick or metal. That would
Yeah,
be
I
it.
think
What's the cost differential of that?
significant. I mean, she has a point. It's significant.
This
If they
is
could,
why,
Okay.
yeah, we're trying to provide that high, like the highest, creme de la creme materiality where people interface with it most. To come back and say, to your point, that it's not about a little bit more here or there, that scares me a lot. We'd love to see this project get done.
Right. But you have a budget, and
You're all familiar with the realities of development, so yes, thank you. You
So-
said it much more artfully than I'm able to.
I think the crux of the issue is that she's not wrong. The budget is real, and to make the project buildable, these are strategies that they're using to make it buildable and balance thousands of different considerations to make it a viable project, and have done a beautiful job. And we're harping on the fiber cement because it's the weak link. Everything else is great. And so I think that our priorities as a board to look at the best interest of the city long-term and its beauty and durability are in contrast with the reality, the financial reality of the project. And so, I mean, that's what we're facing.
I have a thought, and I'm curious what the board thinks. I hate to slow down a great project like this. I think it's a great example for downtown. I think maybe a middle ground is that the red fiber cement goes away, and that becomes red brick or metal panel or something that doesn't fit. That's because the red fiber cement is probably the biggest culprit. And then we as a board need to really revisit the design guidelines going forward, because this is a repetitive issue that we spend a lot of time on each new project. And so I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it looks like staff putting together recommended changes, or we have a workshop and then
I think that's
staff.
there was a motion.
Yeah, when does that take place?
I
Is
think
that-
we're supposed to have
Matthew's
something in
last
April. April?
Yeah, I think it was
April meeting?
sometime before April. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's coming, but we want to give them an answer so that they can move forward.
I personally, the main thing that I brought up was the top condition, which I would like to see more detail. And I don't know if that is something that the rest of the board cares about. But I would be fine with, if you guys are fine with changing the red fiber cement to brick and then re-looking at the top condition, I think I would be happy to support this project.
Do you want to make a motion?
We already have a motion on the floor. We need to resolve.
Can I have
Oh.
a follow-up question on the top? So we've done this on other projects before, with more modern design is a dog tooth pattern, which I don't know if you're familiar with the dog tooth or not. It's where the bricks are basically set at a 45-degree angle, and you do a couple coursings of them along the top. It kind of helps articulate the top, if you will.
Is it like a
Is that-
herringbone turned diagonally like this?
Yeah, so you could look up, I don't know if you could Google dog tooth brick pattern and pull that up. That'd be great. But I think, that sort of approach to the brick is that image on the, that, and then the one on that's a whole wall of it. But normally you just call it, 2 to 4 courses of that or something like that on the top to kind of articulate the top of the building. It's a way to do it in a modern way, but, have a nod to different things that are happening
I
in the
think
greater downtown area. Is something like that was present and detailed in a future presentation, would that be something that would be acceptable to the board?
I would support that. I think probably 2 courses is not enough, but whatever you guys can come up with, I think. since it's so high up, I don't think the 2 courses would give it what it needs.
Coping would cover the
Yeah.
first one.
What I appreciate about today is that there's been feedback from everybody on the board, so this is a unified discussion, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate Tony's suggestion to find a middle ground, that could there be one section that's updated to the masonry, but I also understand the cost implications discussions. That is the reason why it's not just like, sure, we'll go back to the drawing board. I get that. I know that, one of the bigger things in my head too is that we're about to develop the entirety of the McClung sites up the hill, and that's going to be the example of what will be used as precedent. And I know that we're not held to precedent. We can change our minds every day that we're here. But again, we're about to rebuild a Knoxville on the edge that's not been, that's burnt down many, many years ago. And this is a part of that piece, with the Greenway tracking east to west. So again, that's why it needs to be exemplary in its result.
So considering Tony's comments and everybody else's comments and the motion that's on the floor, do you want to stick with that motion or amend it? And then if you're committed to the postponement, we need a duration.
Right.
And
Again, speaking as not an individual, but as the board, I appreciate Tony's suggestion, and I think that is a good middle ground given all the factors that Laura's brought up and Lisa's brought up and others have brought up about lack of clarity and that sort of thing. Of course, like you said, what does that mean? Am I supposed to come back with a little more brick here and a little bit of brick more there? How's that to give them assurance that they're going to fly back here and we're going to be like, oh, that's what we're thinking. Tony's is a direct example. So I will amend my motion to approve per staff recommendations with the additional condition that the red fiber cement becomes the matching brick masonry adjacent to it. And a differentiation at the top courses of the masonry. Whether that's dogtooth or not, is that a...
Yeah, it doesn't have to be dogtooth, but I like that direction.
Yeah, I'm just suggesting that we've successfully pulled that off on a project in Philadelphia, and I could follow up with examples of photos on a 5-story building. So it looks sharp.
he's going to lower his fee to make up for the additional cost. Okay. No? No.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so with the last part of that statement to say that including an additional condition that the top bit of masonry is differentiated in its coursing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve based on staff recommendation, and that the red fiber cement on the north side changes to brick to match the surrounding, and that the top fill in the blank number of courses at the top are differentiated in the brick pattern.
Just a quick question. Is there any, and this may have been included in the motion, but is there any reason for us to have staff review that as well?
Yeah, we'll review it regardless as it goes into permitting and make sure it's consistent with the approval.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that one carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the cooperation and, thank you.
Yes, thank you. It is a great project, and it's a lot to be proud of. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
That, I think, concludes our program for the evening. That's it. So we're adjourned. Thank you.